Hello and welcome back to the MacGuffin Tapes. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined here as always by Ala. How's it going?
Hello. Going fine. Doing fine.
Better than myself. I mentioned that this weather is just dragging me down. This winter weather, rainy. I like the cold, but the
I do
dark
not like the
clouds.
cold, but it kind of fits my mood, so I'm not mad. It's fine.
Talking about mood, well, I'll get to it in a second, but today we're here to talk about A House of Dynamite, which is a film by, and I just forgot her name, the
Kathryn
director.
Bigelow.
Thank you.
And I just forgot her name.
I always complained when I listen to podcasts, people forgetting the names of directors and actors, but now I
Well,
understand.
if you ever forget a name, you can always come to me because I have all the names and all the faces and all the filmographies stored in my head. You know how it is.
I'm usually good at remembering names, but I don't know, it's just a thing of the moment that I'm thinking of other things. Anyway, yeah, a film by Kathryn Bigelow. Have you seen any of her other movies?
We're like going straight at it today. We're
Yeah.
somehow we're always talking a little bit, a preface to what was gonna go down today, but today we're just like straight to the filmography. I have actually seen um well, that's that's kind of I don't know how to frame it now. I believe that I have only seen The Hurt Locker, so the filmography of Kathryn Bigelow is not super familiar to me. I'm not so sure that I have seen Zero Dark 30. I kind of feel like I have not. But yeah, The Hurt Locker, what she kind of got famous for as a as the first woman to win an Oscar for the best director. That one I have seen, yeah. And I think because this was the one that kind of started my, well, where I started watching her films, I guess, or where my that was the first film of hers that I saw. It kind of makes sense to me that A House of Dynamite is also made by her because it's very in line with what seems to be her thing, at least in the, well, after the Hurt Locker and maybe even a little bit before. I looked at the filmography, and it seems like the focus on the procedurals and the very specific political situations that she makes her films about really is from the early 2000s. Before that, there were kind of different films that she made.
And yeah, from what I read, she likes to do these political thrillers. Can you also remind me what is the Hurt Locker about? Because I think two of her biggest film, one is about I think it's Zero Dark 30 is about catching Saddam Hussein, and the Hurt Locker is about,
I think the Dark 30 is actually about Osama bin Laden.
sorry, yes, yeah.
And the Hurt Locker is about, it's a film with Jeremy Renner where he plays how would you call it specifically? Let me see. A U.S. Army explosive ordnance disposal team, which means they disable bombs, basically. Yeah, that's the one that brought her an Oscar.
Like you mentioned, she's always in this sort of realm, or these are the topics that she likes to
Yeah, that's the thing. I think
talk
not
about.
always, but for the past couple of years at least. So for I would say probably from K-19 is at least how it seems to me is what I would call a procedural. And before that, I mean, maybe also in a way, but at least the films after K-19 are very politically focused as well. So they're like political drama slash action thrillers. And Another film of hers that I actually was surprised is by her is Point Break with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze.
I haven't seen that one.
I have not either, but it's very famous.
Okay. So, how did we come about, or how did you come about this movie, other than our schedules were very busy and we had to decide to make time to watch something, and this was on Netflix, so that's why we chose this. But what did you hear about the movie before choosing it for this podcast?
Well, first of all, the topic that it covers is, as always, timely and interesting. When it comes to Kathryn Bigelow's films. Another thing is that I heard a lot of different opinions on it before I watched it, and I didn't initially intend to watch it soon. I didn't necessarily need to see it with everyone else. It's not one of those films, and that's also the reason why I'm not super familiar with her filmography is, well, I mean, political thrillers. Dario is mostly the target audience for that, I think. And if I watch them, this is probably why, because he wants to watch them. Um, and this one, I feel like a lot of people, because it was on Netflix, a lot of people watched it, and a lot of people were sharing their opinion. And I thought it was quite interesting to hear the opinion because most of the time people seem to be disappointed. And I going into the film, I knew nothing. All I knew is that it was going to be on the topic of well, nuclear war potentially, so something connected to a nuclear explosion or anything like that. And I mean, it is in this realm of things, but I could kind of, not knowing anything else about the film, I could already predict what the complaint was going to be about. And having seen the film, I must say it is indeed the case. And it was exactly what I expected it to be, was the main disappointing factor for everyone, and I do not relate to it. So this is going to be interesting to talk about. I also
Yeah.
read a lot of reviews, and again, I had to confirm that the reviews were also not homogeneous. There were people that were praising the film, and there were people that were criticizing the film.
Yeah. So don't forget your prediction, and so that we can talk about it later.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Oh no, we cannot
maybe
forget it, really.
maybe it's also what I felt with this movie. But okay, at least it's interesting that it sparked a lot of discussion from different sides. I guess that's positive. Do we have any other details about the movie before we start talking about it?
I mean, I guess we can talk about the structure of it, but do you want to talk about the, well,
No, I mean from
general?
the pre-production, like how
Mhm.
the movie was written and produced. I don't have a lot. What I found out that it actually wasn't filmed at the White House, so they constructed different sets.
I mean, it
Um,
was there. There are no scenes that are in the White House, or are they?
yeah,
I'm
yeah, I
not
think
sure.
the president
Actually, yeah,
at one point, and Ed Harris's character, who is
right.
Secretary of Defense, I think is in there,
Ed
and
Harris.
isn't it Ed Harris?
No, you
What's
mean
his name
Jared
then?
Harris.
Jared Harris, sorry.
Yeah.
Mhm. And the other interesting fact or trivia I have here is that I read that the music was done by Volker Bertelmann, who is the composer of the score, and also did the score for All Quiet on the Western Front. Yeah, so I guess here, as always, we can start by saying spoiler alert.
Definitely.
Are there
Spoiler alert. So
are there spoilers in this movie?
I think you can definitely spoil by talking about the structure of it. And yeah, so I would say If you want to see the film, which I would say I recommend, at the same time, I must say a certain level of a spoil is necessary, I feel like, to enjoy the film because if you're going into it expecting a huge explosion and a catastrophe film, maybe choose something else because that is not going to be it. So that is all I'm going to say before we start spoiling.
Yeah, so maybe this is also a bit spoiler free, but remember how when we talked about Frankenstein, I said that, or I was a bit jealous of you that I didn't have a a connection, a
hmm
deep connection such as you had, right?
hmm
Well, for this one, I had an emotional reaction to this movie.
Ooh, that's going to be very interesting. I wonder if it's a positive or a negative reaction in terms of how the film is made.
Well, and I have to say it was already the first note of the movie already set my mindset and my feelings towards this movie because if I'm not mistaken, the movie starts with this single brass note with a yeah, it's just like a drrr or something along those lines, which is somewhat reminiscent of Jaws. And
hmm
later it has also I think some violins, which reminded me a bit of The Dark Knight, with which also like plays on like two notes usually. If you remember the opening scene of The Dark Knight, it's basically the Joker. We see
I
the Joker from
remember
the back.
everything about The Dark Knight. You don't ever have to question that.
I think it's two notes that are played throughout, or yeah. But yeah, so that sort of that note reminded me of those two movies, and it sounded more like a horror movie score. So I don't know if that was intended, but yeah, and it provoked an emotional reaction to me. It's like this disgust or dread or
Mhm.
whatever. And yeah, I'm going to be on the critical side more than on the analysis side for this movie
I am very interested to hear your opinion. Well,
because yeah,
anyway, maybe before we get to the to the analysis itself, to our opinions, let's talk about the structure because I feel like the structure is also the point of contention for probably everyone because it starts with one group of people, let's say, that we follow for a certain time, a period of time. And as we go into the plot, as we go into the main event of the film, we realize it is um, a nuclear bomb is heading towards the US, and we don't know yet if it is, if it's real, what it is. Nobody knows that. But then by the time that people do know, it seems that it is going towards Chicago, and there's not really much that they can do about any of it. And it's the time frame that is given for the explosion to happen is, I think, 18 to 20 minutes. Let's just
mhm.
say 20
I
minutes,
think
unless
what
you,
I have in my head is 18 minutes.
yeah,
That's
so
at
let's
least
say
what we
18
see.
minutes. This is the 18 minutes window that we have, that then repeats two other times, right? So it is not a chronological film. It plays out until a certain point with the first group of people that we meet, and then the same events repeat two more times with two different groups of people, one of which is in, I'm not sure how you call that, but it's like a different outfit. Like it's a different group of people. It's a different
Different
place,
department.
and maybe a different department. Um, and then the third part we see is with the President of the United States. And all of that is following different procedural events that different people are responsible for. And all of those people are in one call with each other discussing what is going on.
Yeah, so here I have the name of these three, let's say, acts. The first one is called Inclination is Flattening. Second one is Hitting a Bullet with a Bullet, and the third one is A House Filled with Dynamite.
Hmm.
And actually, the structure is something that I didn't mind, and I think for me that worked quite well. Um, I was trying to think what this is similar to. So I can think of the series 24 because it sort of plays in real time, although we get to see the same event from different perspectives. And maybe the screenplay is in some regards similar to something that Aaron Sorkin would do, these sort of court dramas. But can you think of any other movie where we have the same event shown from different perspectives? Maybe something like Pulp Fiction. Well, it's not exactly like that, but sort of something like
From
Pulp Fiction,
different
maybe.
perspectives, I can't think of anything now, but what I wanted to say and what I kind of already realized while I was watching the film is that it reminded me of September 5th.
Yeah, that's also
Um,
something I was thinking
and
about. Yeah.
specifically, it reminds me of that because, first of all, it's also procedural. It's people going through certain motions and certain actions, but it's also about watching people do their job. Whether they do it well or not, that's a different question, but still, you are watching people trying to do what they are there for, what they're there to do, while still being people and being in this position as, well, citizens of a country and people in this, well, in this ethical situation, let's say. As far as seeing from different perspectives, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, maybe something will come to mind, but there are multiple movies and series who do this kind of thing where there's one incident happening, and oh, actually, let me just see. Yeah, actually, I think I mentioned it to you recently, but you haven't seen it. Is a horror movie which is called Weapons, which came out this year, and yeah, the structure is similar. So we get to see the incident happening from a certain point of view at the beginning of the movie, and then the same thing from other characters' perspectives. And each time we add a little more to the story, or we progress the plot a little further. I think in this
Um,
movie that's not the case.
you know what's also interesting? Life of Chuck, in a way.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
The thing is, it's not really the same event. So it's not the same event from different perspectives. Rather, it's kind of, well, yeah, it's not looking at the same event really.
Yeah, so here because the real time plays into it, then it's yeah, the same incident and from different angles. Yeah, for me, what was also interesting is,
What I think also I was thinking about before we started talking about it is Rashomon, which is Akira Kurosawa, right? Because that's the same, that I guess is the main and the first reference you can take is because it's showing one crime from different perspectives.
yeah, that's the
Um,
archetypical movie
yeah.
where that gets done or is done. Yeah, and I wanted to say for me, it was also interesting to think about how they achieved this logistically. At least, I would say that the first act that happens in this, oh, what's it called? This I forgot the name, security room where Rebecca Ferguson is like the lead.
Situation Room.
So in the situation room, we see the sort of the main screen where different people are calling in, like the president and the Secretary of
Pentagon.
Defense,
Yeah.
Pentagon, and so forth. So yeah, so I was wondering how they achieved that because I don't think that they shot everything at the same time. What I'm thinking that they probably did is that they recorded some interactions separately and then blended those in on the screen or via the audio. So they blended in the audio. What I did read is that they built these sets and they had like for this situation room they had like 20 different cameras. So yeah, that allowed them a lot of flexibility, I guess, and it's also filmed in this very documentary style like style.
That's true because the camera is also handheld, I feel like most of the time, if not all
Yes.
the time.
But yeah, that was something I was wondering about. But yeah, structurally, I have to say I like the movie, and that's what keeps you invested as well.
I think that if I wanna, if we can get to the point where I was saying people were complaining about something, I think I already kind of said what it was gonna be, what it is that people were expecting to see what's gonna happen after. You never get to see that. For me, that's fine, and I think knowing that it's a Kathryn Bigelow film, I would never even expect to see that because that's not what she does. What she does is the processes, what she does is the political activity and well, the thrillers, right? So it's not going to be a horror film or an action film in the sense like I don't know. Um, Independence Day is an action film or something like that. So I really didn't even expect to see any explosions in this film, but I feel like a lot of people really did, and they did want to see what's going to happen next. But I feel like that's not what the film is about. So for me, I guess the expectation should be managed when you're going into the film, and you should really maybe if not read up on the film itself, read up on the director, what she focuses on. I don't know. But yeah, I guess we already know it's not gonna be shown in the film. And the question
Yeah,
that I have about the structure, I mean, for me, it was fine watching it. But I must agree with one criticism that I read in a lot of different reviews is that do the other perspectives add to the story? Because initially, the first part that you see, it's also the longer part because you're getting introduced into the story and you don't get to this marker of 18 minutes well, you get into it well into the story, right? So the first part of the film is longer than the other two because the other two only take about 18 minutes. Um, and
yeah. So we can talk about that more in detail, but let's slow down for a bit.
yeah,
Um, I wanted to add something about what you said, the criticism that the explosion of the nuclear bomb isn't shown. And while maybe that's not my criticism, or I think I'm fine with with uh with Kathryn saying, okay, we're not going to show that, so I can understand that it's not about that. But I'm wondering if many people had this reaction. So I was expecting it. I was expecting at least the aftermath, not necessarily the explosion. And what is it in this movie that um yeah, that sets you up for these expectations, I was wondering.
that's a good question. And I have no answers to that.
Because I don't know, I guess maybe it's the topic itself, and because it's for me at least it was that for me it was so that it's a topic that it's difficult in these times we live in. So if you're going to talk about that, and it's like, okay, show me, do you have the guts to address this topic, or
I mean, to be honest, I don't see any guts in the fact that you are showing a giant explosion and people dying. That
No, no, no,
doesn't take the
no.
guts. Everybody's doing that, you know?
No, no, no. I don't mean in the terms of the explosions, but in the sense of dealing with
Yeah,
what's
but
happening then.
even that, because I feel like addressing the fact that nobody knows what's going on and how to deal with it leading up to this event, that is more horrifying than the fact that we won't know what to do after. Because, well, after didn't really happen to us all that much. Happened to Japan, but I don't know. I feel like the fact the whole procedure that is leading up to this is very scary. It's scary to watch that. Scary to watch so many people in power knowing absolutely nothing about what is going on, how to prevent it, and whether they can even prevent it at all.
Yeah, so for me, that I guess that's the message of the movie, but that's something that for me is nothing new, or that's for me not
I
that
mean,
interesting.
I don't know. I would say that's not really something you see a lot. At least I have not seen this before.
Okay.
Talking about this from that perspective, and the fact that that those countermeasures that they take, those
Yeah, these
destroyers that they send,
missiles.
yeah, the how do you call those?
I.
Interceptors, they call them.
Hmm.
GBI, ground-based interceptors, that they don't really work. They're not really that effective as they're given credit to, I guess, in the film. One of the characters talks about 61% chance of them either working or not working. I think success rate is 61%. So that's not like super high.
Yeah, so that here again, I read about the about that statistic. It was referenced in IMDb, so also take the information I read on IMDb with a grain of salt. But apparently, the screenwriter Oppenheim researched this number, so it was the accuracy over 20 tests they did from a period from 1999 to today. And so, of course, technology gets better. So, I mean, that value 61 has these outliers in it that are maybe the first missiles which weren't that accurate, and maybe they got better. So I think that 61% is maybe, I don't know, to a certain point made up for the movie, because in the movie they talk about it. Oh, it's almost like a coin flip. And yeah, so I'm sure that these missiles aren't 100% accurate. Like I read some minister of defense or something said in regards to the movie, but the 61 is also like, yeah, it makes an argument for the movie, but it's also not very accurate.
Well, I mean, of course, there is a point of we are watching those processes, but we don't know. I mean, they seem to be based in reality, but we obviously don't know how much is made up and how much is maybe shifted in a way to work for the film. Um, I tend to believe those things because I don't know any better, but yeah, I mean, but that's why also the second section of the film is called hitting a bullet with a bullet, right? Because that's what they are referring to, is that the with those chances, with the 61% success rate of hitting uh, a, a nuclear missile with an interceptor is like hitting a bullet with a bullet.
Yeah. So here again, there's where one of my critiques is. So I talked about it a little bit with this percentage that I mentioned, but also my one critique I have is this um, how they portray technology in this movie, and that some doesn't seem very accurate. I can give you two examples. One, this the first one is a bit more inconsequential, if you will, but it's there are some scenes where I think Rebecca Ferguson's character and later Idris Elba as the president are trying to get a hold of someone of their loved ones, or I think there's even one scene where they're trying to get through to China or some Russian representative, and then you hear that, oh, the line is busy and we can't get a hold of them, or when the president talks to his wife that there is like some interference or the signal isn't strong. And that's yes, that can happen, but it's made up for the movie just to, I don't know, create some conflict. And I mean, in these days, for me, it's so silly that okay, the line is busy, so call another number of that department. That's, I don't know, it's so dumb. And yeah, that's a silly critique. And then the other one is, I also read this one up on IMDb, that it's, again, this is point is changed, I guess, to make the movie work, but it has to do with the origin of the missile, right? So, because in the movie they don't know, or they're speculating who sent the missile, and maybe it's North Korea, or maybe it's Russia, or I don't know if they mention anyone else, and it doesn't get revealed throughout the movie, and they left it ambiguous because that's not the point.
Mhm.
But apparently there are multiple ways where you can detect first where the missile was launched from, and then if the missile hits, then you can do a sort of analysis of the particles to yeah, so you can trace the origin of the missile. So there's more than one way. And so here I get that it's some factor change to make a point for the movie, but at the same time, then you are sort of disinforming, or
Mhm.
yeah, so you're biasing this whole image or making a deal out of something that, yeah, for sure there are inaccuracies, but yeah, it's also not the way that it's portrayed.
I mean, we must also say it is a film. It's not a documentary. It's a feature film. So a certain degree of inaccuracy is fine. Um, I agree that if it has really um very big inaccuracies that really have no place in reality, that this is misinformation and probably shouldn't be done. Then again, I don't know anything about it. I guess I am going to be biased or going to be influenced by this film into thinking a certain way if I have absolutely no experience or knowledge in this topic, which I believe probably the majority of people who watch this film is going to be. Um, but I guess the question here is, what is the goal of the film?
Yeah, so that's also my main critique. Why make this movie? And to your point, why don't just make a documentary? Okay, even a documentary has some inaccuracies, but yeah, why make sort of a fiction out of it?
Well, I mean, because obviously more people are going to watch a fictional film than a documentary. I don't think that the rate of people watching documentaries is as high as watching a feature film, especially on Netflix, especially if it's not a true crime.
Mhm.
But I mean, I think also if you think about Kathryn Bigelow, she is, I think, 74 years old. And she grew up in the time when this, well, when the Cold War was happening, right? And it was just daily business hiding under the tables in school, right? So I think now that we find ourselves in the times of pretty much the same um, Cold War, if not open war at this point, with all like I don't know, all countries in this world are seem to be in some kind of conflict with their neighbors or someone else. Um, I think it is definitely a pressing matter, and it is a question that is on a lot of people's minds. And why not address it? And if she had this experience as a child, I think I can totally see how she would feel the need to talk about it the way that it maybe was talked about it when she was a child, but not in a very effective way.
Yeah, so I also heard that she talked about in some interviews that she was hiding under the tables during her childhood. I mean, yeah, on the one hand, the question is that relevant, still relevant today? I guess, yeah, it got a bit more relevant again with wars happening around the globe. But on the other hand, it's different than it was during the Cold War. So, and I would expect that people learned from that time and how conflicts were dealt with. For me, I guess one one reason to make this movie is that you you create an emotional response in the viewers, like I had.
Hmm.
But yeah, then again, if that's if that's the only thing that you want to achieve, and like I said, some things are heightened to the point of yeah misinformation or what's the expression? They make a mountain out of a something. Anyway, but they make a big deal out of some issues, and I don't know if that's healthy, a healthy discussion just to get people like roiled up and to what point? Yeah. So that's my one of my main
Okay.
criticisms.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't really, while watching the film, I didn't really obviously question the accuracy of the film. And in terms of an emotional reaction, I mean, that was enough for me. And I enjoyed it while I was watching it as much you can as you can enjoy such a film, a thriller. I guess you can. Why not? Um, what I also think is obviously it is manipulating you in different ways, and mostly the way that I saw the manipulation through is through families, right? Every single person that is involved in this process is either talking about their children, or it is shown through their relationship with the children or with other members of the family. Everybody has something personal going on in the story as well. So there are obviously personal stakes for everyone in the story, as well as for everyone else, obviously. And this is one way that they are trying to manipulate you as a viewer to feel sorry both for the people in the story and in general about all the people who are in danger.
Yeah. So that again, I think it's a good point that you brought it up because I I think it was shown a few times too many because I think, like you said, it's almost every character we get to see calls their parents, and I'm not saying
Yeah,
that
but I
that
don't
doesn't
see,
happen
I
or
don't mind it because why not? Everybody does have personal lives. And every
yeah,
one
sure.
of those people will obviously have people that they worry about, especially in such a high stakes situation.
But I would have liked to see that someone that is on top of the situation. I guess Rebecca Ferguson is sort of
That
that
would be an Aaron
character.
Sorkin film. That wouldn't be a Kathryn Bigelow film.
No, but what I mean is for me that it's maybe a bit one-sided that okay, yeah, everyone has loved ones and everyone is affected, yeah, of course, but I'm sure that in these types of situations there are also people who are just focused on the problem and
I mean, I would argue that everybody is focused on the problem. All those people are still doing their jobs.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Rebecca Ferguson's character takes a moment to kind of be emotional, and then she gets back to her job. And same with everyone else. So um, Okay, I won't spoil any further in terms of like other specific characters.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I would say that Rebecca Ferguson is perhaps the character in this movie who has the strongest grip on herself. But maybe as a storytelling resource, that it's a bit overused. That I think it's in almost every room we are in, people are calling their loved ones, and if we're just talking likelihood, I'm very certain that there's gonna be people who don't have a chance to call their loved ones because yeah, they have to deal with the situation.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a small detail, but I think it's for me it was just one too many maybe.
I don't know. I feel like this is to a certain degree also the point to show that all those people are people. They're humans. They have families. They are just as human as we are, despite us putting our trust into the powers that be. So the people that are in power, they are still just as human as everyone else, and they have their own things going on too. And although we do put our trust in these people and we do think and believe that they are on top of their shit and they know what to do, they do not. And I guess that is the point. That is what she is trying to tell us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But and I agree with that. I agree that we are humans and we have struggles and so forth. But again, I would have liked to see some different shades of that because not everyone is the same, and we deal with problems differently. So it went almost too much onto the one side.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I would still argue with that because the the people in the film do deal with those things differently, with the emotions and with well, the situation that is unfolding and the possible aftermath of the situation. They are dealing with them in different ways.
Hmm.
The I always think of the Secretary of Defense in this context
Yeah.
because nobody dealt with the situation just like he did. So,
Yeah, I think that also was a note that was a bit maybe too much because of who the character is who does that. I mean, maybe if it would have been another character who did that, I don't know. But again, yeah, that could happen what happened to him, but it felt like almost like a bit of a satire or but yeah, I'm a minor also another minor detail. Um Yeah, so maybe now we can get more into what you mentioned about is or are the other perspectives necessary? Because I also thought about that watching this movie. And specifically, what I was thinking about is the president. So first, actually, I liked in the first act that it's just a black screen. So the president is on the call. We don't see him, but we hear a voice. We can identify that it's a male voice, but we don't see him. And for me, that was actually interesting, right? And here I have to say that it's difficult doing this kind of movie because I guess no matter who you choose as the president, there's some kind of statement I would like to believe. But yeah, so now the question that you asked before is, did we need these additional perspectives?
mhm. I just think that with every single one of them that follows, you get less and less. I can't really say, as I said, I did enjoy the film. I can't say that I was captivated beyond belief, that I could not look away. That's not the case. I mean, it was interesting to watch. But I must agree with the common criticism that every single time that the story gets repeated, it gets so diluted at this point that it's kind of not almost not as interesting to see anymore. And the president's perspective is the one that reaches the peak of that. So I just think, first of all, as much as I love seeing Idris Elba, I there was a bit I almost a bit kitschy to see him as president and to see him act the role of a president. I can see that maybe a president would also be taken aback by this situation and by the, well, this function that technically speaking he should be ready to do, but nobody ever thinks that it will come to it. Um, that it is happening to him and he doesn't quite know what to do with it. Yes, I guess that is imaginable, but at the same time, he looks a bit too incompetent. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like it's a bit too much.
Yeah.
And yeah, in especially in comparison to all those other people that are in the film that know exactly what they're doing. I mean, not exactly, but they know they you can see that they are competent people and they do their job well. And they are in a very trying time, in a very difficult circumstance, but they still have their wits about them. And the
Hmm.
president somehow really kind of doesn't.
Yeah, so I have multiple explanations for this. Um, so the first one, if you think about it, from the script perspective and the characters, so I think it gets mentioned in the third act that the president is briefed on this scenario like once, where then when they are named president and they're, I don't know, that they read a protocol or something and then they don't go over it again. And that seems, yeah, I don't know, I would say realistic-ish. Um, and on the other hand, yeah, so, but it makes sense that the president doesn't have to be in that scenario or dealing with those kind of conflicts in his daily life because he has many duties, as opposed to the characters in the Situation Room or the military characters who deal with those sort of conflicts daily, on not maybe on that sort of level, but
Mhm.
yeah, in some shape or form. Then the other explanation that I have is a choice in the movie that I think it hurts the movie a bit, is that they isolate the president in a lot of cases, especially more towards the end after the basketball game where he gets into the car and later onto the chopper.
Mhm.
Uh, where he's just talking to this one lieutenant, I think. And I specifically remember a picture. I think it was actually when the US government was hunting Osama bin Laden, where I remember seeing a picture of Obama in, I think it was the office with his team around.
Mhm.
And so isolating the president again works from a narrative perspective, but it's so, yeah, I guess it's a misrepresentation because
Yeah.
he always has, nowadays he has a huge team around him.
Yeah. That is
And
true.
and that adds to the incompetence to make a point. But yeah, I guess it overdoes it, in my opinion.
Mhm. That is true. I would say that if you take those parts separately, the third part is well, how would you put it? It it's least well done one. I don't know. It's a rare one in the terminology of meat readiness, but I would say no, it's probably the one that is least interesting, and the one that is the best one would be the first, but also it is the one that kind of leads you into the story. So I guess it kind of is logical.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't really add, or for me, it didn't really add anything from
No.
the emotional perspective, like his scenes with his wife or with the children. That didn't add too much. And here again, so it's impossible to make a safe choice here in casting the president. But that's why I would have liked that they just stayed with the black screen, or that they just
Hmm.
show telephone conversations where you just hear his voice.
Hmm.
Because I mean, this president casting Idris Elba, a black man, reminds us of Obama, and his sort of profile is also very similar. That he's sort of a cool president who goes to play basketball, and his interaction with his wife.
Hmm.
So yes, you have some
Just the model
similarities there.
president at this point.
Yeah. And he does get criticized at one point. I think it's, well, we mentioned that he's only briefed once. And then I think when he's at the basketball game, his bodyguard mentions that, oh, all the presidents are super narcissistic or egocentrical, or I don't know what word he used.
Yeah, he said narcissistic.
But yeah, anyway, if you want to play into those insecurities, why don't you just cast someone who looks more like Trump or reminds us more of Trump, and or or why don't you choose a woman if it doesn't really matter? So that's why I would have preferred to not show the president at all, because
Yeah, I
you're going
agree.
just you're it's you're going to displease people in some way or the other, and it really didn't add in much.
I mean, I can see the repercussions could be there if you wanted to cast a character similar to Trump. So I guess it depends, because it's also a very political choice, right? It is choosing a character or well, actually, yeah, creating a character of president of the United States is a political thing, because obviously we've seen this happen many, many times, and many times it is a character that is reminiscent of Obama, more so than not, right? Um, a few times we saw female presidents, but again, like this whole topic of casting a president is very political. And in the context of obviously the situation that is happening right now, and a lot of art people, like representatives of the art industry, of the film industry, um, they have to be very careful what they do. Um, in all kinds of ways, right? Everybody has to be careful right now. So I can see why they wouldn't do that, and they wouldn't choose Trump to be that type of character. Yeah, I don't know. There's a
Yeah,
lot to unpack, I feel like.
yeah, it's very difficult, but I think you have to ask yourself those questions when you do this kind of movie. And from what I heard, Kathryn Bigelow talking in some interviews, why she decided to make this movie is that she was having a conversation with Oppenheim, and well, and she was wondering, oh, what would it be like if, yeah, if this scenario happened with the missile? And yeah, it's sort of, if that's your starting point, I mean, sure, why not? But it's also a bit like I feel like it's a bit sick. Entertaining that thought, just I don't know, if in the end you're just trying to get an emotional reaction, and then you hide back from making some kind of statement. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
like I said, some of these choices didn't work out for me.
Well, okay, let me just say this then. If you look, for example, at the ways that it is trying to achieve an emotional reaction from the viewer, is showing a bunch of children and um, hinting at the unfairness of it all, then it is a pretty lazy thing that was done. Because obviously, a few years ago, we had Oppenheimer that is dealing with the issue of a nuclear threat, nuclear bombs, and the ethical aspect of it all. And it is doing a tremendous job in comparison, of course. In that sense, yes, I can see that it is not the best way to achieve the same thing. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, now you brought up Oppenheimer. I was just thinking if Oppenheimer did have more of a kind of statement to the matter, or even we you mentioned at the beginning,
September
Sept
5th.
September 5th. Yeah, for example, at least in that movie, I remember that we talked about they were using real footage from that event, so at least there is another degree of realism to that movie.
Mhm. Well, also you must say Oppenheimer and September 5th, they do talk about specifically things that happened, right? So it's not a speculative film. This one,
Yeah,
A House of Dynamite, is that.
yeah, yeah. So again, in that regard, maybe those films are easier to make because it's always easier to judge what already happened. But yeah, then if you do a speculative movie, yeah, it's very challenging, and but I guess you have to put maybe some more thought into it. I don't know.
Okay, well, I can see your opinion. Your opinion is clear to me.
Yeah,
I must say I wasn't disappointed in it like everybody else. It was fine for me and I enjoyed watching it, and I I think the lack of disappointment on my part came from the fact that I never expected an explosion, which seems like everybody else around me did. So I think most of the film worked for me and it did make me think, and I think that's what it was trying to do. Whether it was effective and whether it was, I mean, effective, I would say yes, people are talking about it. People are talking about the topic. It was trying to draw attention to the topic that everybody's trying to ignore. And the whole conversation around the competency of the government, the competency of the people that are supposed to be doing their job, protecting the people of a country. I think this film opens this conversation and draws the attention because obviously there is a lot of discourse around that, around governments, uh, and well, generally power, people in power, especially in the US, right? This is a very pressing matter for them. Well, and for everyone else for that matter. So I would say that it was effective and it did do what it was trying to do. Whether it's genius and can stand alongside some of even Kathryn Bigelow's best films, that I guess is an open question. Um, so far, doesn't seem like the reviews and the opinion of people supports that. Probably rather not.
yeah. So for me, the film was successful in achieving an emotional reaction, and I enjoyed the structure. As I said, the dog style type of camera movements. The music reminded me of a horror movie, and then is it fit for this one? I don't know, but again, it provoked something in me. I didn't need it to see an explosion, but some sort of answer or message, as opposed to the ambiguity, which is fine, but then either lean more into the ambiguity, like we said, not showing the president, or we don't need to have an answer, but it was sort of halfway. And yeah, I still, maybe because I just watched it so recently and I need some time to process this movie, which is maybe a good thing, but regarding what you said, that this movie starts a discussion. At least for me, the criticism is that maybe that the people in power or people dealing with these conflicts and scenarios aren't as prepared. And yeah, for me that is obvious. Or there's always a degree of uncertainty, and yeah, you can never be 100% prepared for this scenario. So I don't know if that's the discussion I want to be having. That's obvious. Or
Hmm. So you are saying that the film is only fear mongering, basically.
yeah, yeah. It
All
goes
right.
into that direction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I can see that in a way. You kind of are changing my mind. No, but I mean, still, I agree with the points that you're making. And
Yeah.
generally, having read some of the criticisms, I must say, yes, I agree. Still didn't take away from the experience of me watching the film. I think still worth watching, I'd say.
For me, I wouldn't recommend this movie.
I mean, again, it depends. If not for Dario wanting to see it anyway, probably I would never get to it.
Mhm.
But here we are.
I would watch other movies of Kathryn Bigelow. I mean, what I said, I like that I had this reaction and how we were led to feeling things. It just, I don't know, it's maybe because of the times we live in, and generally I avoid these topics because I always feel like overwhelmed. There's so much information out there. So if you want
That
to
is true.
have a picture of the situations, you have to read a lot and from different perspectives. So that's why I shy away, and I also don't have the time to live up to my insane expectations. But yeah, so because I like the filmmaking, and I would be interested in watching some of her other movies if they are similar in that regard. So I think from my side, the first movie that I can't recommend for you.
Oh, is it really the
That's all right.
first?
I don't know. Maybe there were some other ones which I
I'm
didn't
sure there
particularly
were.
like, but this is the first one where I can say don't watch it.
Wow, and also the one where we're like completely on the opposite side. I mean, not really. I'm not like super pro this film, and you're, I guess, not super against, or maybe a little bit more leaning towards that. But yeah,
We're a bit flipped in comparison to Frankenstein. Well, although you had a positive reaction to Frankenstein, and
yeah.
I was sort of like, yeah, I liked it, but yeah. Anyway, that's all for A House of Dynamite. If you listen to us and haven't seen the movie, I would say go watch it. I would say
Don't.
don't maybe watch something else, something a bit more informative. But yeah, anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll leave you with this Nicholas
Mhm,
H
mhm.
quote for next time. Coffee and a muffin. Okay, so I need to establish the themes. Maybe a banana nut. That's a good muffin.
Is that oh my God. Oh Jesus, what is it called?
Can you guess it?
I have a specific idea in mind. Adaptation is the name.
Yes, it is.
Is it? Oh,
Yes,
nice.
very good.
Yes.
So, so from now on, this podcast is going to be the McMuffin tapes.
We did it. We connected to Nicolas Cage after all.
Thanks for listening, and bye.
Bye bye.